Okay. Ef Shabsosai Tishmoro, Umikdashi Tiro.
It's like a
You shall observe my I'm not sure my Shabbos and fear my mikdash. The Sefer Yereim in the book of Yereim. Wonder what this is. Okay, I'm not sure. But in the book of the Yereim, it was one of the Mamane HaMitzvos. The Yereim is one of those Sfarim that counts the various mitzvos, and every one of those Sfarim, usually from Rishonim, who count mitzvos, they all have a different vantage point. So we know the Sefer Chinuch will count mitzvos based on Parsha. We'll go through the Parsha, say this Parsha is this many mitzvos, you get positive commandments, negative commandments. The Rambam divides in between positive and negative commandments, and based on priority, starts with the most important, fundamental, overarching, and then more specific later on. There's one Manei mitzvahs who counts mitzvahs based on which part of the body used to do the mitzvah, right? So that's how he classifies it. But we have different systems of classifying mitzvahs. So in the Yereim, he writes, Mori Mikdash v'yaresa melokecha, and you shall fear God. Siva bikanis adon lemikdash. We are commanded when a person enters the mikdash. What are they supposed to do? Is this in that?
no, it's different.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Siva bikanis adon lemikdash obeisa knesses uleveisa medrash shinag behem morokim. When you walk into the shul or the base of mikdash, matter, you should suddenly conduct yourself with a sense of awe and respect. Oh, your phone is here.
It's right here. This one's mine.
Which is all right. You got it. Who told you, Asher or Hindi? Hindi. All right. Have a good day. Shinai gohem more of a people. Lo mimikdashai ata yarei elamimishi his here alamikdash. You're not afraid of the mikdash. You're afraid of the person, the one who commanded about the mikdash. Should be a kaddish baruch. That is the lashon of the Yereim. So we learned something new. Not everyone has the same agreement about what the 613 are. There's different opinions about which ones fit into the 613, which aren't. So according to some, certain things are mitzvahs, and others say no, those are not mitzvah. So really interesting. So we know the Gemara says there's 613 commandments. So everyone's trying to figure out which ones are exactly which.
Can you give me an example of one that's
where there's a dispute?
Yeah.
The Rambam and the Ramban argue about some of the more general types of mitzvos. Avas Hashem and Yiras Shamayim, are they generally requirements to being a Jew, or are they mitzvos themselves? They're anyway. According to the Yereim, fearing Hashem when you go into a mikdash mitzvah is a mitzvah d'oraisa. V'simin Tav Yud Mor Shabbos. Kishem Shetziva Hakadosh Baruch Hu Laseis More V'Kivud LaMikdash. Just as God commanded us to show awe and respect to the mikdash, Kach Tziva Laseis LaShabbos. So too, He commanded us to give Shabbos. Sharei Hukshu Zeh Lazeh. This is a fascinating idea. Once there's a mitzvah to show yira for the mikdash. Let's look at the source. What's the source? It says, you shall observe my Shabbos and you shall fear my mikdash. Well, if one's a mitzvah d'oraisa, guess what? Then observing the shomer Shabbos is also something that is akin to that. It's a mitzvah to a fear of Shabbos, not just to dwell in Shabbos and to observe Shabbos, but to have fear of Shabbos. Because it says, so the yira that is the mitzvah of the mikdash is also a mitzvah on Shabbos. That's what the Yereim says. So two chidushim. Chiddush number one is there's a mitzvah to have awe in a shul or a temple. Mitzvah number two is that there's a mitzvah to fear Shabbos, because the juxtaposition, the association with Shabbos and the mikdash. That's the halachic insight of the Baal HaYereim. Now, Ma'u Mori Shabbos, what is fear of Shabbos? Shiachshov Adam Belibo, L'chavedas of Shabbos. You should feel in your heart, you have to honor the Shabbos. Lishmor, to observe. Lios Chared al Hadavar. Charedi means to tremble, right?
Charedi means
Chared, to tremble, to be so afraid, right?
Oh, interesting.
Right. So, to be in a state of awe and almost trembling before this matter. Lo mishavas atayare. You're not afraid of Shabbos. It's not. You're not afraid of Shabbos. You're afraid of the one who commanded us Shabbos. That's the Yireh. Now, this is a wondrous new idea in halacha, one that no one else suggests. Shelo daily shmors the Shabbos. It's not enough to observe the Shabbos, to keep Shabbos, but you have to have gam pachad, fear of the holiness of Shabbos. That's the new idea from the Val Yireh. Okay. I move on. Liot chared al davar. What does it mean to be chared about something? Mizbayer b'divrei hamasil zisharim. That idea is explained in the classical work of Musar by the Ramchal or Zato called the Mesilat Yesharim, the Inyan Yirat Chet, when it comes to fearing sin. Sheyeh ha'adam yarev doeg tamid. Person should be afraid, worry always about his actions. Pain nit arev bam eza shemetz chet. Lest something, a little bit of sin get mixed in. Upeng yeh sham eza davar katan, or a small matter. Gadol. So I'm always worried, what am I going to do something wrong right now? Can't live your life like that, but there is an element to that is being recommended. Okay? We move on Shabbos Kodesh. Everyone knows Shabbos is the most complicated set of laws. So intricate, so involved, so detailed. I'll call Tnuat Yad, every movement of the hand. Put the pot down like this, hold on to it, declare this, say this, that. It's so complex. And as a result, is it muksa? Is it borer? Is it sochet? Is it squeezing? Or is it cooking in your kitchen, your house, in the street? There's not a single component of our lives which is not completely overturned. There's no mitzvah in the Torah that is so all-encompassing like Shabbos. Right? So detailed, it's so consuming of our lives. Ad shebe'emes mishin istove b'Shabbos argasha mishuchreres v'ninucha m'bli liot b'matzav shel matach pacha b'chareda. Someone who is preoccupied and is not filled with that fear. It's impossible they won't mess up on Shabbos. That's the statement. If you think about it, I remember when we were learning the laws of gozes, which is cutting your hair or trimming. Gozes is shearing wool, but it applies to cutting your fingernails and cutting your hair and shaving, etc. So that I think Rav Willie pointed out that anyone who bites their nails during the week is probably Machal Shabbos, because it's a habit you almost can't stop. So if you're doing it during the week on Tuesday, you probably do it on Shabbos also. So what kind of presence of mind it takes to observe Shabbos? It's really hard. And so this idea is that if you're not focused on it all the time, right, you almost can't get out. Lo shaykh means you're not going to go through Shabbos without sinning. According to the Sefer HaCharedim, this is another work. We are commanded this mitzvah, the Yarei min Shabbos, to fear Shabbos. And it's also true when it comes to honoring Shabbos. In other words, let's extend this idea. Obviously, we have to be preoccupied with what I don't want to sin, I don't want to flick a light on, I don't want to cut my nails, all those things you have to know about. But it's also about honoring Shabbos. What's honoring Shabbos? Challah, the Kiddush, the Halakas Neiros, the way you eat, the food you put out, just as you have to show that kind of constant preoccupation with Hillel Shabbos, the violating malachos, to show that kind of preoccupation and awe with kavod Shabbos. Everyone knows we prepare tons of food, we put on nice clothing, we polish our shoes, preparing the house. לפעמים בערב שבת נכנס מסך וחרדה מרוב דקדוק דברים, אבל באמס הזהירות הזו מצווה בתורה כולל שתי מצוות. Turns out that you're doing two mitzvos, right? You're taping the button on the fridge, and more now you're pushing buttons to set it, right? The power of it. Okay, old school. But the new fridges all have shops. So push the buttons down, or you put a magnet on top of it. That's Yirat Shemayim, so you don't sin. And then there has to be Zahiras also, so you prepare the food. Or Shemayim, that you should have the highest level of food. You should have the nicest setup. The house should be clean. So who adin being in Morik Mikdash? The same thing is true with Beis Mikdash. Eino dai b'mash izar adam shalul lahakel rosho davar dvaram betel. Obviously, you walk into shul, you don't want to go on the phone and check the news and check the sports and check the stock market while you're in the middle of mincha. That goes without saying. Shakabanim inhu matzav noach mishufar margish k'mabayit. If you feel it's like your house, you kick back. B'kai gashel mora mikdash. You can easily violate the standards of the base of mikdash. Kasher yira anashim mishufachim ezo sicha v'delim. People feel like they're talkative people, and they start to talk about things that are nonsense. Chudama ela yebe bayit base of knesses bargashel pachad umetach inezeh base Hashem. You should also feel this is the house of God. Harav shchina shorekan. Al-Zeksiv, Al-Ze Avit El-Ani, V'nachei Ruach V'chared Al-Divari, that he's saying, and to this I will place my eyes, Abit El-Ani, my eyes, and I will have a lower spirit and trembling on my words. So he's saying that that's not just to make us be terrified of shul, but to a place that you are also preoccupied with that love that Hashem has for us. So this is just the Shabbos. It seems if you follow the Mamani Mitzvahs, the Yereim and the Tzivich Haredim, that there's an idea that you have to be constantly preoccupied not to violate Shabbos. You also need to be preoccupied constantly with the joy and the honor of Shabbos.
Dialectic.
But you have to do that in a shul also, I say.
It's kind of a dialectic idea.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to do that.
Well, that's the whole idea. I
Right.
think that's everything in Judaism is about
Yes.
just constantly mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and focus.
Now, just this last piece, what he's doing is brilliant brush because he's saying the halacha follows that Yiras Mikdash and Yiras Shabbos are connected from that pasuk, but Yira also means the positive parts, the joy, right? The experiential, the food, the setup. So if you have to have Yira in a shul, you know why kids don't like going to shul sometimes because it's like the old guys say, shh, quiet, right? What are you doing? No, they're right. Right? You shouldn't. It's not a place for monkey bars. You don't have to jump around and jump out. They're right. But on the other hand, if it's not a place of incredible ava, you've also lost.
Yeah.
I remember David Beshevkin, who's here, told a great story.
David
Beshevkin.
Oh.
David Beshevkin told a great story when he was in the shul, and he said when he was a little boy, he stood play hide and go seek in the shul, and they hid in the Aron Kodesh. And he was hiding there, and then he heard Shabbos Mincha. He heard Ashrei Yoshev Eisecha Yavu Fazel. So he realized that they were about to start Mincha, and they were about to open the ark, and he was in there. He was describing this feeling of what he called. He was describing this feeling of sort of a yira and ava, and this is his
Same
place.
time.
This is his house. And I think that really shared that sentiment,
Wow.
right? Okay, so the next piece, I'm just trying to figure out which piece he's on here because it could be there are two little. Oh, okay. So this is the piece he has. Chapter 8 is actually the next piece. There's one more article before we get to that. Okay, it's very short. Hanezek v'riyas kol Shabbos. The damage in we're on Reish Mem Aleph. It's not yet.
It's not in here.
It's not there.
So that's his
Extra in here.
Oh, it is.
The damage of Chilul Shabbos. Pasuk says v'nefesh ki techtav v'shama kol Allah. That when a soul will sin, and will hear a voice of cursing, voice of Allah. Like Allah is never worse for cursing. I'll try the just because of our discussion. I'll try the what do you call it? No,
That's the
Yeah.
But now look right.
it's better than Illustrator. I'll do it often.
I know you're not Vaishik now.
This is
I
very
got steak for
that's
breakfast.
emphasis.
Sandwich for breakfast.
I couldn't pick it up.
It's like right.
Here.
It's for Andre the Giant.
Here's donuts, everybody in.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna call you and say we needed.
Okay.
I was right.
Baruch atah Adonai l'melech haolam.
Amazing.
Right.
For the 2.3 people who view this video later, Thanks for watching me eat a donut ball.
Many points are in.
No, yeah, facts. One of the balls, my God.
In the Sefer Tam Vadas, he cites a powerful medrash. It's a Tosefta. Rebbe Lazar ben Masya Omer, Ein Adam Mischayv Leros Ela Im Kein Chata, Shenemar, B'nefesh Ki Tefta V'Shama Kol Ala. V'chein, Hay Rebbe Lazar ben Masya Omer, Haroa Ovre Avera Nischayv Lerot, V'Haroa Osei Mitzvah Zach Lerot. You will never witness a sin unless you're guilty of that sin as well.
Say that again?
You will never witness a sin unless you're guilty of that sin personally.
What? Because you won't recognize it?
Well, we see, I guess so. You know, you have to, and even physically, our eyes are the inverted image, right?
That doesn't make sense. Maybe he'll explain. It was Holocaust. We can't say that.
No, I think it means it's not talking about, mass murder or whatever, that kind of thing. I think it's talking about if you see someone driving a car on Shabbos, and you're a Shomer Shabbos, you have to remember, well, that time that I did chew my nail, right? That kind of thing. It's talking about that
It
kind
doesn't
of
mean you do that exact thing. It means you.
Right, but if God forbid, you saw bloodshed, maybe we are guilty of kina or sinas kinam or kas, anger, right? And avodah zarah. You see avodah zarah doesn't mean you've done avodah zarah. It means maybe you were angry one day because those mitzvahs are kinfet.
That makes sense.
Now, similarly, if you see someone do a mitzvah, it's because you were zocha to see it. Think about how are you oriented? What's your perspective when you see things in this world, right? How are you wired, right? So most people, I'll give you a more general example. If you had no idea what Judaism was, right, in your life, and you walk into a shul and you see people taking coins in there, right, or they're lifting up the coins before for matzah shekel. Okay, I have no idea what they're doing. You would not even know. You might think, okay, they're giving charity. You wouldn't really know what they're doing, right? Because you're not wired to see it. You've never performed that mitzvah in your life. So on a very physical level, you only understand something that you understand. Therefore, right, if you're walking around and all you see is sin, you probably have a guilty conscience. You probably have a sense of, oh, that's who I am as well.
You recognize it, yeah.
Apostle Mumo, right? The Gemara says that only a person that you can call someone out to be blemished because you yourself have that blemish in you. Rav Machlis, they always point out that he used to, one time they were walking on the street and cars were driving. He does often. They're driving on Shabbos. He yells Mazel Tov. Everyone's having a baby. He cannot. He's a very big ohev. Israel in general, he's a big ohev. I mean, I don't know if he's not for our time. Like he walks through the Arab shuk, giving hugs and saying shalom aleichem to every Arab. He's out of this world. He's in another planet.
What's his name?
Rav Machlis, very holy Jew. His wife was Niftera. She was tzedekis. There's a whole article biography about Henny Machlis. You should read it. It's the best. Change your life. She was
one who handled everybody for Shabbos.
150 people at every meal.
My sister went to that.
Oh, you
I read about her.
mentioned her. Wow.
Yeah.
So
he's still around.
Yeah, he still does his thing. He teaches in Bar Ilan, he teaches in yeshivas
Is
here.
he elderly?
I imagine he's in his upper 60s, maybe a little. Yeah. No.
I do not consider being in your upper
So not very old is what I'm.
That's why I said no.
Dead
Yes, I didn't respond. He's elderly. He's not.
No, he's not.
I don't either. When I was younger, I did.
I just told my mom that. I was like, it's so funny. Like, you're in your 60s.
I thought 60s was old.
Yeah, now I do.
I don't think it's old anymore. No. My definition of old has been moved up to 80s.
So was mine.
That's
Me too.
and hopefully it will go up and up. Okay. So also it happens to be my experience with people in their like in their 60s that they're young and lively and energetic. And so I don't view that as old. It's my experience. Okay. Fine. Now, Nevesh ki techtov. So if you see that, so perish lo yitachin she's dam in adam lirot ma'isa avera. It's not you're seeing an avera. Ela in kain who atzmo gamkin chotev os avera in mitzvah. So on a spiritual level, you're never going to see something wrong unless you yourself have some component of that in you. Okay, ein osa avera or like that avera. Shim lo kain lo yizamenu lo min hashamayim at re'iyas avera. You would never see that sin unless you yourself did it. and when you will sin and you will hear the voice of the curse. Hainu mipnei she'oso ba'al nefesh hu chata, l'chein nizdamen lo lishmo et chaveru nishba l'sheker. Because you yourself sinned, that's why you heard someone swear falsely in court. That was the case there. V'haklal hu she'adam sheroa osei avera mipnei shehu atzmo asham chayiv k'tzas ba'avera zu. Because you're guilty and you're chayiv a little bit in savera. Same thing is true if you see a mitzvah. It's good. If you see mitzvahs all day long, you're in a good place. Now, I'm wondering, right? You have a person that's tzaddik like that who does mitzvahs all day long, right? Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it that he refuses to see it? I used to think, he's so positive. No, it's that he can't. He's not capable of seeing negativity in other people. And it's a very high level. Right? They treat literally homeless people off the street come into their house and they treat them like royalty in their home. There was an incident where I think one of the son-in-laws who tells a story that they were borrowing the car and there was someone there was like someone's like crashing their car. And like they had to figure out, it's okay, didn't want to wake them up in the morning because they needed a place to stay. So they're crashing their car. And like this is the kind of like people.
The rabbi.
Yeah, they let.
Oh, I thought you said crashed his.
He's crashing in their car, like sleeping in the car. Right.
I misheard. With a car crash can be something else.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, so this great rabbi slept in the car, you're saying?
No.
Oh, he allowed this person.
Yeah, people were just sleeping in the car. He found out afterwards and didn't bother him, but they didn't want to wake him up after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, right? Like the first thing we do is call the police, right? It's a different level. It's a different level, and you have to be that kind of person to be able to see that kind of good. Now he's saying that means that seeing a sin is itself already an indication that we're sinning. It's the beginning of the sin. He'll never even see something wrong. When they stone someone to death, it says the witnesses will be the first one to cast the stone, right? In the hands of the nation afterwards. You will eliminate the evil. Why do the people who saw the Avera have to be the first one to cast it? Why is that? So we think, well, you're condemning someone, right? Mm-hmm. Because they saw it, they're already impure. And if you saw it, that means they're already at a point where such a thing doesn't faze them. Ella yakel chumrato be'enehem. It will lighten it and say, it's not such a big deal. Imagine all you do is watch violent television or movies. Then what happens? You're desensitized to it.
Kosher phones. That's the reason for the kosher phones.
Right. But already you think of it as, it's not such a big deal, right?
No, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
All you did is see that on television, right? If you watch salacious types of movies and this is fine, you can do this and this and this, it's not a problem. But it doesn't happen in the real world. Put it now already in your head. It's in the real world. You've brought it from a screen into reality. Your brain is in reality. So already it's either going to cause it or it already had awakened something inside of you, the thought that was legitimate or possible or real or fantasized. And so there's a reflection. Mm-hmm. It's reflecting something internally. You would not be able to see it if it wasn't even a reality. Mm-hmm. If such a thing didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to see it.
But these rabbis who are, like you were saying, are on such a different level, at least than me, and the things that he can't, but he has to know. I feel like it's like when a kid sees animals mating and then they're like, oh, they're playing because they don't know that what's happening is a thing. These rabbis are studying, they know what averos are.
Right.
So if they see somebody stealing, they know about stealing.
So yeah, I mean, like I always remember the Supreme Justice who said, when they wanted to define pornography, he said, know it when you see it. Mm-hmm. Famous line.
Yeah.
I always thought that was, there's this instinctive response to things that are inappropriate, but maybe it's the seeing it itself is the thing. Like if someone didn't know it, there would be a certain purity, right? There would
Right.
be a certain innocence. Like lo aleinu, it happens unfortunately, device. But if you were to show something like that to a 2-year-old, right,
They wouldn't-
they wouldn't know it. They're
Right.
pure.
They
Right.
wouldn't understand.
So why? Why is that? So let's reverse instead of saying that you are corrupted by what you see, because you are corrupted, you see it. If a surgeon saw a certain procedure, taking a knife and cutting someone open, and they knew exactly what the procedure looked like, they would think this is saving a life. But if you've never heard of surgery, if you came from, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, and this was a surgery you've never heard of in your life, you would look into the scene and say, there's a murder going on.
Yeah.
If you're oriented to see that. So means your perspective, your own truth is what projects on the outside.
Mhm.
And that's really and that's, I mean, it's a profound idea. This is like really cool. Now,
But
you don't like it. I see you're uncomfortable.
no, I think it's beautiful. It's just not realistic in the real world. I
Meaning,
mean, we're in a war. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to, our boys who are right from are out there doing things that
right,
is horrible.
right.
Really,
So,
in reality.
so
but they-
finish the thought because I think I know where you're going with this. I just want to, and therefore, what does it say about the boys, or what does it not say about the boys? Where's the point where you're struggling? They're seen doing horrible things. Therefore,
they're not only seeing people
Right.
dying, but they are actively killing
Right.
somebody to protect our country.
right.
And that's a hard thing to, I mean, they have to do this, they have to see this.
Right.
And I mean, I
So
saw
I'm-
a story about this boy, Cookie's grandson, who studied Rashi. You know, he had 1 minute
Right.
down, he was studying Rashi. You know, in the living room in Gaza,
Yeah.
in between. I mean, he was
Right.
killing people, and yet at the same time.
So you're saying they're getting decent, like what, so.
Yeah,
they're
so they
desensitized.
are seeing evil. They
So-
they
so
have to recognize it. It's part of their.
I have two responses to that. I don't know whether either of them ring true for you. One response is no, they're the surgeon. They're not doing evil at all.
They're what?
They're not they're the surgeon. They're not doing evil at all. They're actually doing good.
They're removing the cancer.
Right, meaning they're doing what they're
I
doing.
know they are,
Oh,
but they're still seeing.
so why
They're still bringing death.
So I would add to that is that even because that is something, David Melch could not build a basement just because he had blood on his hands.
Right.
We know that. So it's true. There's no question, no question. We don't want to be doing that kind of
Right.
mitzvah.
What do you mean?
I mean,
by that?
the surgeon doesn't want to be doing that kind of surgery if
He
they
said
hope
they
there was never an emergency. So you're right. It's not great.
I mean,
But
I feel bad. I
how-
mean, as soon as I heard there was war, all I could think of is these
Right.
poor boys. They're never
I
going to
want
listen.
I want to pick on that first point though, because I really think you're hitting something. When we look at a soldier and we say, that person is risking his life and is saving other people, even if it means doing terrible things, like sad things or unfortunate things. And the rest of the world says, these guys, they're occupiers and they're killers. And this. So what do you think Rav Pincus's article would say about that dichotomy? Why is it that they're looking at the same thing as we are and their vantage point is different?
Because they are evil and killers themselves. So
Or they have that in their heart.
they're
The Western,
interpreting evil.
Or they have that in their
Western
heart.
European ideology is as
Right.
occupiers. That's who they are.
Right. Or they have that in their heart, right?
Right.
Have that in their heart.
I mean,
It's okay to take a land as long as it's okay to take a land as long as it happened long enough ago and the person was low enough on the human scale, so it's fine, right? But you're right. That's the American mentality. So what do you do about that? And that's the history of all humankind, right? We've conquered, we've taken, we've killed, we've pillaged, we've done all sorts of things. So the very act of self-defense looks a lot like the act of conquering. It's almost the same action.
It is
Right. But cutting someone open to kill them, cutting someone open to save their life is the same action. It's the same deed.
Yeah.
So it's hard to,
But it's just why you're
Right.
doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is
So
your
the result-
motive?
so I don't know. That's my approach to that. Now, I do think that if there is some sort of there's stickiness to it when you do something that's like that, because we don't dream for a life of war. We want there'll be no war, there'll be no weapons. The weapons will become plowshares, right? That's the vision. beautiful artwork, a bridge passing by outside Shar Tzion. There's a little footbridge that goes across that little road by Derech, this Derech Hebron, Derech Beit Lechem, whatever it is. So that little footbridge there's a monument that was built up there, and you see all of these weapons in the bottom that are like bronzed cannons and this and this, and then they're like forged into garden tools. It's very cool. And it has the Toscan. It's right outside the Begin Center.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
So what I want to say is that it does stick to us, and even King David cannot build the temple because it does affect us, because it is part of us. And the Gemara acknowledges that someone who likes blood, who is comfortable with blood, can be a surgeon or a mohel or a shochet, a butcher, but also has to be careful because they could also kill. It's the same thing that can be twisted. Gemara says, if you're okay with it, if you don't pass out every time you see blood, like me, then maybe you could be a mohel, and maybe you could be a shochet, maybe you could be murdered. So be careful. Interestingly enough, that Gemara in Shabbos, fasting aside, is Rava says that he is a Ma'adin, he's born in Saturn. They believe in astrology. And they're Rava. Rava, right? One of the Amoraim. And he
In astrology,
There was an era where
Right,
astrology
right.
was
And what we mean is like if you're born in a certain month or in certain stars, you have a certain predilection for certain traits. As opposed to
yeah.
well, no, back then, it's a larger discussion,
Okay.
and the Gemara debates back and forth. Point is, he says, I have a tendency, I'm madim, I can handle blood. So they said you have to be careful because you too can be. So there's a Gemara in Megillah tells us that one day Rava and Rabbi Zera had a Purim Suda, and Rava got up and killed Rabbi Zera. So there was someone in the Farshim point out it's the same guy. It's the same guy, right? Then they brought him back to life. And he said, "Oh, you want to come to my Suda next year?" And Rabbi Zera says, "No, lo b'chol shas v'shas it's rachish nisa. A miracle doesn't happen every year. I went to your Suda last year. You killed me. I'm not going to do it again. I think I'm going to the other party." So, but that's Rava. And those who say that maybe it's a mistake for what do you call it? For a person who knows their tendencies to get inebriated, become inebriated because you have to be careful. Okay, anyway. All right. So made them Chazal learn that the seeing of the Avera itself is akin to the Avera. So he says that's why when it says Yada Edin, the person who casts it, right? He is the person who casts the stone because he saw it. And if you saw it and it doesn't affect you, you have to internalize that, and therefore you have to see where it leads, even the ability to see it. That's what the Torah commanded. So, because this guy is the one who saw the Avera, it must be in his heart. He has to know that. Drop it there. Don't think about it anymore. It's not part of you. You have to eliminate that. Eliminate the evil from you. From your heart. Don't even think about it anymore. That because of this, you'll tremble. The your heart will be pure from the pagam, from the blemish that has entered into it. And these things, dvarim noraim, tovchim lano al paneinu, it hits us in the face. As we see, we're so far from purity when it comes to Shabbos, Od Averos Chamuros and other Averos. Harekama Chilule Shabbos. How many people are Mechal Shabbos? Anuroim Bechol Shabbos b'Shabboso. That's our life. We're in a world where there's so many different people who are not observant. And in the street, we see it. All things that we don't like. It affects our soul. And part of me, I also like, sort of dark books and science fiction, things like that. I have a darkness in me. We like that. And if we like it, then where is it leading us? Why are we turned on by this, right? Where is it coming from? That certain things that not all that we're sort of entertained by things that are a little bit less than beautiful and pleasant and nice, you know? And what does it say about and how so Kolshkin Haragi Likrobi Ton he loves newspapers. He'll read newspapers about murders and theft and other things like this. Now, your question is true. Gemara Bava Kama, talk about Shor, Bor, Hamor, the damage, the murder, all that stuff. I get it. Stories in Tanakh are filled with murder. Right? But it brings a coldness to our hearts. No raw be'ercha yadus, the essence of yadus. And that coldness, it needs to be understood. And therefore, we have to strengthen ourselves, not just to distance ourselves from Averos, but also from seeing other sins, to find the things and the places that are so pure that don't have those things. And therefore, children, even when they don't even know how to read and to learn, take them to the shul, take them to these medrash, let them see things that are wonders. Why do we take kids to Alila Regal to see the Beis Hamikdash? So the Gemara says to bring Sfar Levian, to bring rewards to people to bring them here, but also that they should see it. The story of Yaakov and Esav, right? The Beis Medrash. That the parents will be zocha to have wondrous children. And now we're up to the very last piece. Should we do it today or no?
Oh, can I just
Yeah.
say something about what Robin was saying? I think that anyone who's involved in any of this, war situation from probably at almost any level, even if you're not on the street, you're still maybe up because there was a thing this morning about operating drones.
Yeah.
And what happens when you operate those drones?
And you're desensitized, and you're not even,
You're not
you
there,
don't,
you're not the one
right,
doing
you're not
it.
killing.
But I do
But-
feel that PTSD is that conflict within those people where they were forced, not of their own volition, but were forced to do things that they
To
don't want
experience
Yeah.
something.
experience.
Exactly.
And that
Yes.
it does live with them, and that many of them, and I think this is, so important, need that help to put their thoughts, their visions in perspective so that they can make peace with
Mhm.
themselves about
Yeah.
this conflict.
Yeah, a sociopath or a psychopath, psychologically speaking, they would not suffer from PTSD.
Right,
Or,
no.
or they would experience it very differently. Yes, because they can't connect.
Right.
empathetically
So,
with-
I don't know.
It's usually post-trauma happening to you, not
Yeah,
that
it's revisiting the trauma later on.
that
Yeah.
you've experienced. It's
Yeah.
not,
like
right.
the rockets.
Right. Well, but
Any-
PTSD is classified. You could actually experience secondary PTSD as well.
Yeah.
That's
That's the Holocaust.
It's now being it's in the
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
DSM-5 codifies even a secondary PTSD is
Yeah.
a close friend of yours or relative of yours experience something horrible and they share with you.
Sure.
So you could actually have PTSD as a result of that as well.
Yeah.
And now intergenerational PTSD, which is another thing. But I think we're not going to do the next piece, which is actually in there, but we'll do it next. But I want to say something because you had me thinking about this. The drone warfare, as we get more and more distance from physical violence, and it's the same thing that goes on. So this is one of the debates that's going on now is, well, if Israel pushes a button and blow people up, isn't that just as bad? I was thinking about that. It's a good question. I think we should ask ourselves that question, not just say, well, we always take Israel's side, Israel's always right, we're Jews. Like, because I believe in tribe loyalty, but you have to be honest when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something different. I think that bombing, which is a horrible thing to have to do, or even a war that is basically a proxy war of drones versus a Iron Dome.
Yeah.
No one's actually there. It's actually a more peaceful existence than taking a sword and cutting someone's head off.
Mhm.
Now, why? Why do I think that? Maybe it's not as damaging because the soul part,
Yeah.
the neshama part. You
Mhm.
could make excuses when you don't have to see the ramifications of your actions. Of course, it's easier to fire
Yeah.
1,000 people if you run $1 billion company and you just push a button and 1,000 people, the floor opens up and they're gone. Then you have to look someone in the eye who's been working with you for 24 years and say, I'm sorry, we have to let you go.
Right.
A lot harder,
Mhm.
but there's the human side of it. And that's, I think, the difference, what goes on here. What happened on October 7th was, and now the videos now with the New York Times article talked about it. We're talking about violence and evil with intent and malice. We're talking about the ability to look someone in the eyes and to do such a thing, right?
Mhm.
And forget about the numbers. Forget about the equivalent of, well, it has to be an even number of people. That nonsense, because war's never been that. But the idea that there's even an equivalent between those two actions is, I think, brought out in here.
Yeah, I
Right?
think so.
If
The
you could
intent.
look someone,
Yeah.
if you could be the type of person, right, you would never want to even, pinch your fellow and hurt them, like, because you have to look at them like that. That's a terrible thing to do, right? And it's really tough to that's why you don't operate if you're a doctor on your child, right?
Mhm. It's
But-
very
So I think that's something I was thinking about when you were saying about drones. I don't know if that was where you're going, but all right. Anyway, Thank you. We'll continue
We're
next week.
done. Thank you. No, they're doing